You get, actually, you know what? You do it better than me. You introduce me better than I introduce myself.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our presentation today. We are here. Mr. Darrell Teat, and he is our second CEO of Color, and we are just super excited to have him join us today. Darrell has a fabulous career, moving from nonprofit with, he tells the story of him having, how many jobs do you say?
17.
17 jobs, and graduating in 2000, and this, his fallback plan was being CEO. His first plan was to go to the MBA, and this is his fallback plan. So hopefully all of us will have a fallback plan of being a CEO, right? So Darrell agreed to come and join us and talk about his time when he was at Nehemiah. And in Nehemiah, they were really working on making sure socioeconomically disadvantaged folks had access to housing. And he's going to tell that story about that journey through the Nehemiah companies. And so I'm going to hand it over. Thank you so much for joining us and for doing this talk with students.
Absolutely, I appreciate the invitation. And since we're live streaming, we might if I pull this down.
Right, yeah, so that they can hear.
This will not look as muffled. All right, so thank you again for the introduction. I always start off by saying my first job is to be the husband of my first girlfriend, who now we're just celebrating 20 years of marriage this past July. Thank you for the round of applause. She puts up with me. And second job is to be the father of two amazing kids. My daughter is 18, and my son is 16, so my daughter's a freshman in college. My son is a junior in high school. And then in all my spare time, I get to serve as CEO right now of a company called Safety Center. Safety Center is a social enterprise meaning we got for-profit and nonprofit entities under a corporate umbrella, which is a nonprofit organization. So we go by the motto, no money, no mission. So we compete in the open market, and I'll share a little bit more about that as we go along. And then I have the privilege and honor of pouring into people's lives as an executive coach. So actually I share, I graduated college in 2000, and I've had 17 jobs since then. And I share that story. My wife's like, I can't believe you tell people that. So graduated college in 2000. I played basketball throughout school at Santa Clara. Played the NBA Developmental League, the ABA, a couple other things. And I'm like, you know what, this basketball thing just ain't gonna work out. I'm a little bit too short. So I did everything from forklift driver, working in warehouses. I was at Aladdin bail bonds, right? Bailing people out of jail. And it's a whole long story about the person I bailed out of jail. It's about this tall. His name was Mr. Wonderful. It was pretty interesting. I was like, are you talking about me? So back office work with admin, and I share that story to say it's never about where you start. It's about keeping your eye fixated on that mission and that journey and that vision of where you want to go. And we'll talk about it a little bit through this conversation, but there's so many routes to get there, right? As long as you stay focused on it, it'll definitely get you where you want to be. So, since we're in Thanksgiving, right, we're in November, season of gratitude, you guys didn't know this was going to happen, but I got to do it. All right, we're just going to do rapid fire. This is one of the things that I do with the company all the time, right, is to get us in the right mindset for what we're about to talk about, what we're about to do. So we're going to start in the back. Sasha, rapid fire. What are you grateful for? What are you thankful for?
Family, wonderful family.
Margaret.
Health.
What's your name?
Eric Tippo.
Eric, pleasure to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'd say family as well.
Family, awesome. My man, Aurelio, is that how you say it?
Eusebio.
Eusebio. I'm going to get it before the end of the night. What are you thankful for?
Health.
Health, awesome.
Harmony.
Mother?
Family.
Family,
Family, specifically mom and dad.
awesome.
Yeah, family.
Family, awesome.
Family.
And
Family.
awesome. And I am, in addition to my family, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here before you guys today. I was sharing with Margaret This was the first college campus I ever stepped foot on in the 7th grade. So went on a whole, field trip. I'm like, whoa, we're at university. And I always known I play college basketball, so the short story is I was walking through, trying to find a bathroom, but I was really trying to find a gym, right? And I just so happened to get lost. The guy was driving a VW Bug, playing rap music. He's like, I guess, 7th graders on campus. He's like, you guys looking for something? Like the bathroom gym? And he's like, follow me. We just jumped in his car. Right? Me and my buddy, he took us to the gym, to the stadium. And when we walked, that was the first college stadium I had ever walked into. And I seen things on TV, and I'm like, whoa. He's like, well, here's the restroom over here. We're actually about to have practice. He's like, better yet, follow me. Took us into the locker room. And I saw the jersey, some practice uniforms hanging there with the nameplates. I said, uh-oh, the vision was real then, like, I saw it. And that was the first time we're like, okay, I can go to college, what my dad said is true, right? And what my grandma said is true, and I can play Division I basketball. I was like, this dude is different than me. Then the other players started walking in, so I was sizing myself up to them. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So I share that story, number one, because it's just humbling being here today from the 7th grade, sitting on, walking through the campus, first campus, to being here speaking in a program like CPOs and color and residence, kind of full circle. Just keep that vision of where you want to go and follow the paths, and you will definitely get there. So today, I'm going to start off by telling you the story of a company that basically changed the world in its own little way. A small company that I was privileged to work for, and then ultimately lead for a short period of time, based in Sacramento. The company is called the Nehemiah Corporation of America, and the title is Knocked Down but Never Knocked Out. And the reason you'll see throughout the theme, hopefully I do the company justice as I go through this presentation. Also, as we go through this presentation, I'm going to share a little bit of insight about why diversity is so important to corporate success. So you'll hear some of those elements, and we'll start off with the why. And then I'll try to weave in some life lessons and philosophies. Hey, thank you guys for showing up. I'll weave in some life lessons and philosophies that I have garnered and I share not only with my kids, but my family members, and actually those that I serve as an executive coach for as well throughout. And then we'll just have a good old-fashioned conversation. I'll answer any questions that you might have, open book, because the purpose and one of the things that I found out is about me, and my leading life philosophy is help people take the lid off. Right? Help people take the lid off their life, help people take the lid off their career, and by me sharing the collection of experiences I have had, both positive and challenging, hopefully that exposes you guys to different opportunities as well. So let's jump into it. So Nehemiah Corporation of America, knocked down but never out. So this company, Nehemiah, I'm sure it's up, yep, all right, had this vision. They had a vision of being a minority-led organization that could democratize housing. So they knew that the American dream was for many people to have a stable job, but it was in health and all those good things, but housing, a house, was something that many people were like, I gotta own my own house. And what they found is that many people, especially in the LMI community, low to moderate income communities, just didn't have the down payment. Right? This down payment was the single thing that was eliminating their ability to purchase a house. They had stable income, good credit, but just didn't have that 20% down payment. So they're like, we gotta figure out how to eliminate that down payment. Is there something that we can do? The other thing that this company, Nehemiah, wanted to do is they wanted to prove that a minority-owned company, companies that were diverse in all aspects of diversity, right? In gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic class, they wanted to prove that all the data was true. that when you have a more diverse organization, you make better decisions, you're more profitable, you attract better people, and you have much more sustained impact. Right? So when we talk about diversity in business, they were like, you know what? What we hear is that diversity in business creates a couple different things. It really catalyzes the profitability, right? The innovation, opens the floodgates to talent, because people see, wow, I can see myself at that company. And just an anecdotal story about today. So I served on the board as a corporate board director for a company called Environmental Science Associates. It's a national environmental consulting firm. The industry is just not very diverse. Environmental consulting, people are like, what does that even mean? So not a very diverse industry. But ESA has made a commitment to diversifying not only the talent at the entry level of the organization, but all the way throughout. And what we've seen is that the floodgates have opened for talent. So as you guys may read and we talk about in some of the classes right now, you hear about the Great Resignation, and it's so hard to find talent. ESA, Environmental Science Associates, has had an opposite challenge. There's people just running to the company because of the fact that they can see themselves now within this industry, especially a company based in San Francisco, doing awesome work to really help catalyze communities across the country. So they also want to prove that. They also want to think like, hey, you know what? Many people may say a super diverse small company doesn't have a great reputation because of whatever reason, but we're going to prove them wrong. All right, so these were all of the whys of Nehemiah. So when we talk about, I shared I was going to give you a little bit of data. All the research, I would say, that I looked at from like 2015 to recent shares that the more diverse a company is, the greater profitability they'll have. Right? And diversity, once again, in terms of ethnicity, socioeconomic class, backgrounds, gender, because of the fact that you make better decisions. You have more input coming in to make better decisions. So these companies, whether it's McKinsey, this study from McKinsey, they've done tons of research. Corporate board directors have done a lot of research. Boston Consulting Group. So you can do all that, and it will support the fact that the companies that are more diverse again have greater profitability. Also, they're more innovative. Right? So think about where you're from dictates your life experiences and your perception, and your ability to see things in a different way. And if you have one set of people, right? So if you have groupthink, I'm sure you guys have talked about that in your courses. Groupthink, like everybody's like, oh no, this is the problem. And this is the problem, and this is how you solve it. But then when you have people that come from different backgrounds and experiences, like, yeah, you could solve it that way, but I've seen it attacked this way. And then somebody's like, no, I've actually seen it attacked this way. And then all of a sudden you start having that dialogue, and it's like, all of a sudden those aha moments start to happen. Right? It just happened. I'll give you a quick story. And Sasha, you'll have to speed me up, because you know I can talk about this stuff all the time.
You're good. You're good to go.
A quick story about the company that I run. So the company is called Safety Center. It's been around for 85 years, 86 years. So everything related to safety training and education. So our goal, our big, hairy, audacious goal, our vision is two things. Number one, to become the nation's premier provider of safety training and education. So we have a DUI platform. Hopefully nobody here ever gets a DUI. Judge will sentence you to a 3 to 30 month program that you got to pay for. We actually have contracts throughout states with various counties to operate that platform. We do workplace safety training. So backhoe, excavator, confined space, active shooter. We have our own safety mesh certification. If you guys see the construction, people on the side of the roads like Caltrans on signs and all that stuff, like we train them. So we have contracts with Caltrans, Department of Water Resources, a lot of government agencies to train their employees on how to be safe in their workspaces, right? And we have a goal. We just want everybody to have the opportunity to go home safe to their families every day. Very, very simple. Like, we're not doctors or EMTs or firefighters or police officers, but we play a key role in helping people make safe decisions while at work and having the education to make those safety decisions, right? So, we'll talk about the DUI side. That's a boring business. It's actually quite fascinating because of the fact that we have such a diversity of people that come through, customers that come through our platform. We actually offer classes and services in Russian, English, and Spanish. We also just hired somebody to do sign language because we know that there's power in being able to serve a diverse subset. One of the things we learned through the pandemic is that we used to do everything 100% in person, right? 100% in person. I just got to the company 2 years ago, so I'm just going along, getting my feet wet, trying to learn all the systems, and boom, the pandemic hits. Got shut down. I'm like, whoa, wasn't prepared for this. So I'm like, all right, we do everything in person. They said you got shut down. We can't stop bringing in revenue. Okay, that just significantly cut the team down, right? So we went from about 160 employees to 25. And nobody knew how long the pandemic was going to last. I came in, we have a decent amount of reserve, but our revenue was cut off like that, right? So, all right, this is what we're going to do, painful to the team. But the team decided, hey, you know what, we can innovate. So we, in 60 days, went from 100% in person to 100% virtual. We were the first in the state of California to have a remote client platform. This platform now is the largest revenue generating business line for our company, and the company made over $800,000 more in profit last year than ever before in the history of the company. That all happened because we had a diverse group of people who came to the table and said, what can we do? How can we solve this problem? And as we continue to innovate, one of the reasons that we did so well is our colleagues said, you know what, the Spanish-speaking market is really suffering right now because of technology. The technological divide is really just showing itself right now. So we created something called Operation Better Service. We were going to go all in and make the investments to create a more awesome experience for our Spanish-speaking clients. And as a result, our business just came through, blew out the water. They were referral after referral. So we went from enrolling about 20 Spanish-speaking clients a week to over 65 a week. This is in the middle of the pandemic. People still have to get their license, right? People are still getting DUIs. And you have to go through this course, you enroll in a course in order to get your license back. So by us having a diverse team that was able to look at challenges and opportunities and say, we can do better here, in our purpose and our mission to still do well for the company, that's why we're able to do so well. So innovation and diversity absolutely have to happen. Here we go, next one. We talked about opening the gate for talent. Because of the fact that a company, somebody can see themselves in an organization, and it's not just one ethnicity on the cover. They don't look on social media and see it. They don't look in their marketing and see it. I'm like, wow, all of a sudden they have a little bit more of a draw. So it may seem like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. There's so many companies that just don't do it, still to this day. They missed that whole part. No, we're back. Okay, all right. So one of the things that Nehemiah did was they were really, really intentional on their recruitment and highlighting the fact that we are a diverse organization with a social mission, but we need people that have a for-profit mindset. We need the best and the brightest to come here to solve this problem of how to eliminate the down payment, right? And they brought in people from all over the country. Some of the best and the brightest minds left high-paying jobs to come help solve this mission of helping people achieve the dream of home ownership. So now as we start to go into the company, this here, we're going to come back to this, in a little bit. This was back in 2014. We were able to give this lady who lost her husband, this is when I worked in Nehemiah, this lady, she lost her husband and her son as servicemen. We were able to give her 100% mortgage-free donation, fully furnished home in North Carolina. That was the power of this diverse organization coming together using their for-profit principles to attack a social mission or a social issue. And ultimately what happened as a byproduct of that is this lady got 100% mortgage-free property. And we were able to do this over 25 times. So we're going to come back to this. So now, Nehemiah, what was it? So Nehemiah, social enterprise, it really said we're going to solve this problem of down payments. Robert Matsui, Sam Pinnell, and Don Harris. Matsui was a former congressman, actually the husband of current congressman Doris Matsui. Robert has since passed away. Sam Pinnell was a city council member of Sacramento. Don Harris was a lawyer and a pastor of Antioch Progressive Baptist Church. They were approached back in '97 of a gentleman who said, hey, I got 100 or so duplexes. I don't want to own these duplexes no more. And the people who live there, they pay rents. They're single, female, head of household. They have great credit, great income, but they just don't have this down payment. I don't want to sell these to someone else because I know what's going to happen. They're going to jack up the rents. These people who've been here for 5, 10, 15, 20 some odd years are going to have to be displaced. And there's actually generations that have lived in these duplexes. Is there any way that we can find out how to get them down payment assistance so they could buy the property? That's the only thing they're missing. And what happened was they figured out that Don Harris figured out that there was a loophole that allowed the seller to provide the down payment assistance. And they were like, I think we're on to something. So it was a demonstration project. They tried to work it. It didn't quite work right. They couldn't get through all the legal part. And then boom, back in '97, HUD approved the Nehemiah program. The Nehemiah program basically was like striking gold. So you guys, well, what was that move? What was that show where they struck gold? Anybody remember that show? Like Uncle Jed, like kind of struck gold. It was like the Beverly Hillbillies. That's exactly what it was like, right? Like, hey, you see, hey, I didn't want to look back over there. I was like, anybody? They struck gold, right? $1.5 billion over a stretch in down payment assistance. 325,000 families use this seller paid down payment assistance program across the United States, all 50 states. Homeownership education was delivered to 175,000 people because what they found is that not only do we want to help people get in the home, we don't want them just get in, we want them to stay in the home. So the homeownership education was delivered as well, all across the country, right? So it turned into a small demonstration project of 100 homes. Somebody who said, I have this vision to be able to create and democratize down payment assistance and home ownership for everybody in the country, whoever wants to own a home. And they brought the best and brightest minds to the table to build this platform, this diverse set of people, and this is what happened. So I keep hitting this too. That's probably going to end up coming off. So, is it green? Yes, it's still green. Awesome. So Nehemiah was based in Sacramento, about 250 employees at its prime, minority-led board of directors. So series, not too many leaders. And then you see back in 2015, yep, that's me. I was able to be part of the legacy of leadership and CEOs for the Nehemiah Corporation of America, right? We didn't have anything like this, but we should have. That would have been pretty cool to have one of these, the pictures up on the wall and what have. I don't know about you. It seems like all of them are looking at me too, except for him. He's just interested right now. He ain't even interested. So Nehemiah got up to about $250 million a year in revenue. All right, so this small company really founded in the basement of Antioch Progressive Baptist Church, created this program that got up to about $250 million a year in business. So because they've had this vision of not only democratizing housing, but giving opportunity, right? That was the thesis. Just give opportunity to people. They created this phenomenal social enterprise. And once again, remember, social enterprise Nehemiah had. The Nehemiah Corporation of America was the umbrella company, various nonprofits underneath it that had different missions, and underneath that, for-profit entities that generated revenue and profitability so that it was able to fund the work of the nonprofits. As you guys know, there are a ton of nonprofits out doing phenomenal work. And because there's a ton of nonprofits doing phenomenal work, there's only a certain pie, like the universe of nonprofits is this big, the universe of funders is this big. So everybody's going to the funders. Pick me, pick me, pick me. We do great work. And yes, you do. So they had to either say no, or they just give a little bit of money out, right? So they can spread their wealth. Nehemiah's like, you know what? We're going to do things a little bit different. You want to give us money? We ain't going to say no. But we're going to create our own revenue so we could fund the things that we are passionate about. And so not only did the Nehemiah program, as you guys see, the $1.5 billion, and we're going to get back to the kryptonite of the Nehemiah in 2008. But what they found was like, man, we have this profit. Now we can go and invest. So let us invest in funds. We're actually going to go invest in investment funds, real estate investment funds that are actually focused on creating low to moderate income housing. We're going to be the nonprofit. Never happened before. Nonprofits are typically like, hey, give me the money. Nehemiah said, we're going to invest. And this is what we need as our rate of return. And not only from a financial rate of return, but actually a social capital rate of return. How many houses are being built? How many of these homes are going to low to moderate income families? How many of them going to people with minorities? How many are going to single female head of households? That was our return on investment where we were able to put our money to really good use. The Nehemiah Progressive Housing Fund did about 2,200 units of its own housing. So as you go through Elk Grove, the Elk Grove people, right? So around, is it called Stone Lake, right? The apartments around there, that's Nehemiah. Nehemiah built those, right? South Sacramento, if you guys go into West Sacramento, right? If you guys seen those multicolored as you drive in, right? Nehemiah. Nehemiah invested the funds to create that housing for low to moderate income families, right? So that's the Nehemiah Progressive Housing. Other divisions within Nehemiah, the Nehemiah Community Reinvestment Fund, so $43 million of loans. Nehemiah Community Reinvestment Fund is a CDFI, National CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution. So that meant we were the bank, $43 million in loans. So companies, mostly nonprofits across the country would say, we want to build low to moderate income housing. We can't get the loan for whatever reason. We would do the underwriting just like anybody else would. We would loan them the money. So we became the bank. We would get a return on investment. They would get the money, they would build, they would pay us back, and then we reinvest it, right? So we became the bank. The Nehemiah Community Foundation was the grant-making arm. So the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCA, they all needed funding. We would make sure that if we gave them funding, there were certain metrics that they had to hit related to investing and serving the underserved communities in those particular areas in which they worked. All this came from a diverse group of people that had a for-profit mindset, but said we're going to deploy it at a nonprofit, through a nonprofit so that we can generate revenue and have enough funding to dictate and move funds where we want it to for the good, right? We used our superpowers for good. So a couple things that came out of this. If you guys have ever been to Oak Park, no, maybe a little bit, some. Oak Park, represent, all right. So Oak Park, back in the day, it was like the hood of hoods, right? It was like scary. back then, before he became mayor, Kevin Johnson, who grew up in Oak Park, he was like, you know what? I want to get into development. I'm a retired basketball player. I want to get into development. I have an opportunity to buy this property from the Housing and Development Agency, but I can't get a loan, right? Yeah, I'm Kevin Johnson and NBA Dream Teamer and All-Star and local town, but I can't get a loan. Nehemiah said, we believe in you. We have real estate background. We're going to fund your vision. So he took this old dilapidated, I'm telling you, it was terrible, and turned it into the 40 Acres Project. 40 Acres Project has Old Soul Coffee, Underground Books, Guild Theater, now has a restaurant called Fixin's, right? We loaned them the money, we held and serviced that mortgage. We held and serviced some of the loans we sold off, we held that one because it was one of the first loans that we did that was a catalyst project. Actually, yeah, you guys would know. It's right across. You guys got UOP right around the corner, right in Oak Park, right? Right. So that was a Nehemiah project where we invested the funds, held the note. We were the bank and took the chance on somebody who had the background, the gravitas, and the motivation to do catalyst projects. And we did these all across the country.
And that jumpstart Oak Park, and now you can't even buy property.
Can't buy property. Can't buy property. Absolutely. So the Guild Theater, just actually, I think it was called The Color of Music, was just there. African American Symphony came and just exposed the whole community to what orchestra could be, playing hip hop songs, and it was just awesome. I didn't go, but I saw video. Instagram is great for that. I was just like I was there. It was so cool. But all that transpired because a small company had a vision to figure out ways to democratize housing, use their superpowers for good, and created this pool of capital to go back and invest in the communities. So, who knows who this is? Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson. Nehemiah faced Mike Tyson in 2008. Nehemiah actually sued HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, back in about 2005 and won, because they said, even though we approved your program, you're not running it the right way. There's some things you shouldn't be doing. They sued, tried to stop the program because of politics, right? And people saying, wow, this company is just sucking people out of renters. Like, they're not renters no more. All these apartments are now sitting empty, and the landlords and the apartment owners like, what's going on? We're losing our tenants. We got to figure out a way to stop this, right? Let's keep people in apartments. Like, we don't want them in the home ownership. So ultimately, HUD came after Nehemiah. Nehemiah won. Like Mike Tyson, HUD didn't stop. They came back again and said, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So the Hera Bill, which took Fannie and Freddie Mac, government entities that underwrite mortgages and conservatorship, they figured out a way to sweep into that bill that no nonprofits can offer seller-paid down payment assistance anymore. So all of the smaller companies that did it in their various communities and some of the larger ones, there were 3 as large as Nehemiah, ended it. So here you go from making $250 million in revenue a year, right? Investing and doing all these things to zero overnight. It was like a shocker, like, I can't believe this happened. So that's why I say Nehemiah got knocked down, right? But like Rocky, it's not how hard you get hit, it's about how you get up. And Nehemiah said, you know what? We have this mission. Yes, our revenue is gone, but we still have the intellectual capital, the human capital. We still have the gravitas, the influence, and we got a little bit of money in the bank. Let's figure out what we can do to jumpstart our company in a different direction. Down payment assistance may be gone, but our mission's not, our fight's not, our quest to give people opportunity is not. And what did they do? They said, you know what? We're not going to come back in housing right now. We got to figure that out. But what we learned through this whole experience, what they learned, was that we really needed to diversify leadership. Because Nehemiah was the only company, minority-led company out there holding a beacon and champion for minority home ownership. And it wasn't many, so it was like one, you could get picked off real easy, but then you couldn't pass the torch to anyone else. Also, the CEO, Scott Syfax, who serves to this day as my #1 mentor, he also was going through something at the same time where he was finding that he was the only one in the greater Sacramento region that was being asked to serve on boards that was a person of color. And eventually he asked the question, he's like, why everybody keep asking me? I get like 20 requests a month. People are like, we just can't find them. We can't find diverse candidates that are ready for board service. He was like, well, where are you looking? They're like, we're looking all over. He was like, you know what? I bet you I could do one better. I'll go find them, and then I'll create the platform for you to just come get them. So he created, with the board support, they invested. Remember, this company went from making money to no money, but they had the mission, and so they didn't have to ask anybody. They invested $1 million, a little over $1 million, to create the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program back in 2009. Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program to this day is a program for high potential young professionals. Back then, it was between the ages of 25 to 35. They were like, oh, we'll stretch the boundaries to 40, but they really wanted to focus on that age group to help prepare them for the next iteration of leadership. Particularly African American males is what it started off with. Now the program is much more diverse, still focused on minorities, and the age group has increased significantly. So you have people who come in around 25, there's people who come into the program around 50, 52, because leadership never stops. You're always evolving as a leader. This dude, there's a guy right here, let me see if you see this right there, right? So this is actually a spread from Comstock's magazine where I was privileged to be one of the rising young professionals. In this image right here, there are 7 people who were part of the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program. So it was something, a personal story, changed my life. The trajectory of my career. Nehemiah aims to provide the tools, the resources, and the relationships to help people get their career to the next level. That program, I gained confidence in being who I am, 100% authentically me, right? I discovered through that program, you know what? As the bigger black dude, I don't really have to meek myself down. I don't have to tone myself down as much. All the things that I was hearing as I was growing up, that opportunities just weren't going to be open to me, and I had to work 15 times harder, and this was going to be closed off. It was like, you know what? It broke all that down. It reconditioned my mind to say, you know what? You deserve it. Right? You have the skills, the intellect, the insight, you have the gravitas, you have the motivation, you have the heart. Now we're just going to give you the relationships, we're going to give you some tools, and now you go get it. So in my first class, I was privileged to go through the first class. We have the story of a gentleman named Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson grew up in South Sacramento, played basketball at Florence High School, went to Santa Barbara, actually, playing basketball. Didn't work out for him. He went to UC Davis, didn't focus on basketball at all, went into staffing, became an entrepreneur, ultimately ended up on Shark Tank. If you guys have ever seen the Rapid Ramen Bowl, I don't know if Rapid Ramen Bowl, some people, that's him in our first class. It was because of the relationships in the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program and the vision and the exposure to entrepreneurs that were super successful, catalyzed in him, I could go make this happen as well. Now he has 11 products sold in Targets and Walmarts and Piggly Wigglies and Kroger's and all across the country, right? You have a lady named Rhonda Staley Brooks, who was the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and she was like, you know what, after 20 years, I want to make a change. Now she's one of the highest grossing consultants for Pampered Chef, selling cookware, because she has a passion for it. Like, that's her passion. She discovered her passion within the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program and the mentors. One of the most significant things that happened through my life is mentors that I was able to get exposed to. Like people who've been there, done that, and they were like, you know what, I see something in you. I want to help you get to where you want to be. You got to do the work. I'm going to give you the insight. So for those of you that are looking to do amazing things, I'll tell you there's power in partnership. And if you don't have a partner right now as a mentor, go find one. Like go look under a rock, go do whatever you got to do. First, I would start with going to your professors, going to the people here at the school and saying, hey, you know what? There's alumni here. I want to meet them. I don't know them, but I need to find somebody here on campus that can get me connected to them and start to build that relationship. So the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, now there's over 125, 30 fellows serving on 300 boards. I wouldn't be on the corporate board that am in on today if it wasn't for this particular program telling me the power of board service, how to use my gifts and my skills to give back to the community, and then also giving me the exposure to what corporate board service looks like at a whole nother level. So keep it moving, because I can talk. Uh-oh, hold on. I gotta go here. We froze up. Oh, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, here we go. Abort the plan, not the mission. This is something that I absolutely love to share. And you guys may have heard it before. One of the things Nehemiah did was they aborted the plan, not the mission. Their mission was to democratize housing and give opportunity and help give people opportunity to do the things and take the lid off their lives, right? So they got knocked down. They aborted the plan of housing, but the mission remained the same. They came back anew with their own funding to create the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, right? So the story, and you're like, why is there a picture of a helicopter there? How am I doing on time, Sasha? Spin it. Okay, 10 more? Okay, so I'll go fast. September 11th happens. They finally figure out years later where Osama bin Laden is. They're like, we got to go get him. Smartest people in the room come together. They're like, yep, we know exactly where he's at. Here's the plan. We got the Navy SEALs. We're going to send 2 helicopters in. What happens? The first helicopter crashes. Remember, these are the smartest people in the room. Create this plan. All of a sudden, did they go home? No. Now, you know what? Switch. We're going to abort this plan, but we're not going to abort the mission, right? We're going to jump into the other. We're going to move in, we're going to go get them, we're going to all fly out, then we're going to burn up this jet helicopter so they can't see what was going on, right? They planned, one of the things that I learned in reading more about it and talking to my stepfather who's in the military, like they planned that the first plan is not going to work. So as we go through life, one of the things that we have to think about is our first plan might not work. But if we know what our mission is, we have the vision, right? The GPS coordinates of where we want to go. Like, it's just like Waze, right? I didn't put the like Waze will tell you, hey, you're trying to get here. This road is blocked. We're going to go around this corner. And you know what? It's too much traffic over here. It's going to take you 11 minutes. Here's a shorter route. Let's pop up. It takes you there. So my hope is that through this particular story, no matter what you want to accomplish, you will get there, right? Abort the plan, not the mission. And many people will tell you that the mission should be aborted because your plans might change. You had to change course 3 times. Why are you still going that way? Oh man, you got laid off 4 times. You got laid off, Darrell, after you bought your dream house in Wilton. What are you going to do? Man, you should just give the house up and just go back to selling pharmaceuticals. All right? Abort the plan, not the mission. Nehemiah aborted the plan and not the mission. So it created itself and looked at its core competencies and said, you know what? This is enter Darrell Teat time, right? So I come in, they lost all their revenue. I went through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program. The CEO says, Darrell, I see something in you. I want you to come here. And your plan B was to be a CEO. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about being a CEO. I'm like, cool. I said, well, in return, I'll be the best employee you ever had. So I came in to the company, had some entrepreneurial and visions of myself and what I could do. And remember, I had 17 jobs. So I had a whole lot of different experiences, from owning companies, owning car washes, working in pharmaceutical sales, bailing people out of jail, real estate. And all of that came to accumulation where I was able to help develop a program called the Nehemiah Restoration Program. So we come in, we had some money, we looked at our core competency. What did we do really, really well was real estate, development and sales, and we have relationships with banks. So what did we do? We went and actually started buying foreclosures. We started off, our first properties we actually purchased was in Stockton. At that time, Stockton was like the foreclosure capital of the world. We're like, let's go find some houses. We're only gonna sell them to low to moderate income families and first-time home buyers. That's all we're gonna do. So we flipped a little over 3,500 homes in that window. We became the largest flippers. We called ourselves socially responsible flippers of properties in the United States. Then we created the Roofs for Troops program. Roofs for Troops program is because we had a relationship with Bank of America. We were actually buying properties for Bank of America. They asked, do you do anything with veterans? We're like, no, but we can. All of a sudden, we created something called Roofs for Troops. Bank of America would donate properties to us, 100% mortgage free. We would renovate them, sell them at 10 to 20% off fair market discount to veterans, active duty military personnel. And then for every 10 properties we sold, we would donate one 100% mortgage free, right? That's where we get to the Roofs for Troops program. And, let me go back. The first donation I did on Monday Night Football with the president CEO of Bank of America. There was a lady who was a veteran herself, had lost her husband in Afghanistan, had a 1-year-old. We were able to give her a 100% mortgage-free, fully furnished townhouse downtown Charlotte. Because of the fact that we used our core competencies, we used our relationships, and we aborted the plan, not the mission of providing affordable home ownership. So Nehemiah Real Estate ensues because we were having other people sell our properties. We're like, we could do this ourselves. Let's bring together this diverse, once again, the diversity of skill set, the diversity of insight of people like, hey, I know my cousin over here is one of the largest African-American real estate brokers in the United States. I bet you she might be able to help us develop our own real estate brokerage. Why not? Nehemiah Real Estate. You know what? All these nonprofits want to flip homes, but they can't get the capital. We have capital, we're making money. Let's go ahead and create Nehemiah Community Capital, where we lend our money, we go get other people who want to lend their money, because remember, we know how to run investment funds, and we lend to nonprofits and people who actually want to get in the business, and we could take a chance on helping them become homeowners, become business owners with flipping properties, become landlords, and create their own portfolio. One of the largest projects is called Township 9. Township 9 is a 65-acre urban infill project along Richards Boulevard in the northern part of downtown. This was at the time the largest African-American owned development project in the United States. 2,500 units of housing, 140,000 square feet of retail, won 2 U.S. Conference Mayor's Awards for public-private partnership and green innovation. We got $45 million in Prop 1C funding. That's free money. Because of the fact that we checked all the boxes of what the federal government and what the state wanted to do as far as investing in underserved communities and the type of companies they wanted to invest in. The most significant thing, I think, of that particular endeavor is we had a goal of 40% minority contracting. So because we knew this was a catalyst project and we were going to spend a whole lot of money, we said 40% of those businesses that work with us have to fall in the minority category realm. So in order for the general construction, they actually were like, in order to get this contract, we're going to put the first time we ever had a female lead this particular project. That's the type of power that we had to be able to influence change because of the fact that we aborted the plan and not the mission. So if you ever drive by Township 9, Richards Boulevard, and you see the light rail station that we built with RT, and you see the bricks, the quick story is this. My first day on the job at Nehemiah is 2010, It's August, it's hot, I'm suited and booted. And I'm talking about I was looking sharp with 3-piece suit on, it's burnt, it's hot as can be. At the end of the day, the CEO, Scott, says, hey D, it's like 4:30. You wrapping up for the day? I'm like, I got a little bit more work to do, then I got to go pick up my son. He was like, okay, hey, this project's only going to take 30 minutes. Before Township 9 looked like this, it was a cannery of just old buildings. He's like, in that far back building, I was like, yeah, the one that looked like it's about to fall down? He's like, yeah, that one. There's a whole bunch of bricks. I think somebody might be stealing our bricks. Those bricks are expensive, and that's what we're going to build our light rail station with. I was like, oh, man, okay. He's like, you got to change your clothes? I'm like, where are we going with this? We about to go play basketball? What are we going to do, work out? He's like, if you can go count those bricks for me, that would be appreciated. In August, in a full suit, I go out there and I count these bricks. I come back, I tell them X amount of bricks. He looks on this little crumpled up Post-it note. And he says, oh, this is about right. I was like, yeah, so you pretty much knew how much? He's like, yeah, I had somebody counting the other day. I just wanted to know if you were fit to lead. He said, in order to be a leader, he's like, that was your first test in leadership. In order to be a leader, you have to be willing to do all the things that you would want somebody else to do, and some. And make the sacrifices when the rubber hits the road. Sometimes you just got to do it yourself. Abort the plan, not the mission, right? So keep it going. So it all goes back to this. Nehemiah created the first seller-paid down payment assistance program in the country, $250 million a year in revenue, 325,000 families took advantage of this program, got knocked out by Mike Tyson and the Hera Bill, jumped back up, recreated itself, aborted the plan, not the mission, used its funding to create the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, which is the reason why I'm standing here today, put so many families into homes through home ownership, through the Nehemiah Restoration Program, donated over 25 mortgage-free properties, right? So where's Nehemiah today? I call this in hibernation mode. So Nehemiah sells Township 9, the largest project. That was the crown jewel, a whole lot of money. Everything was tied, all the different divisions, everything, the flagship company tied to Township 9. We sell it. The company, let me back up. Bought the property for $11 million, selling it for $65 million. The mission's going to be, and legacy going to be funded forever. The company files bankruptcy after getting home ownership of the property. Nehemiah gets no funds to this day. This is back in 2016. Still in litigation. Company files for bankruptcy. So Nehemiah's like, well, what do we do now? At that point, because of the way that the company was set up, we divested of some assets, and we made an intentional choice to say we're going to move out of real estate. We're going to focus everything on the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program. We're going to put all of our funds, all of our efforts into creating the next generation of leaders so that they could be real estate developers, so that they can be CEOs, they can be entrepreneurs. So to this day, if you look up the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, you can look on the website and see all the people and what they've accomplished that have gone through this particular program. Nehemiah's entities are still around, and it's looking and always kind of like waiting in the shadows for when the opportunity strikes for them to be able to create another program to reinvigorate the mission of Nehemiah on the home ownership side. So lessons learned. Too many, all right? Too many. One of the things I'm going to share is keep it simple. Nehemiah was an extremely complex company. The complexity of Nehemiah was one of the things that ultimately focused us into saying, you know what, we need to pick one entity, which is the Nehemiah Community Foundation. So as you guys, entrepreneurs, keep it simple as you build it. Another one is build for legacy, right? Build for legacy, not for profit. Follow your purpose. Follow the mission. The money will absolutely come. Next one that I learned is everybody has superpowers. One of the things that the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program taught me was to discover my gifts, discover my talents, and really look at them as superpowers. And the only rule as superpowers and as Avengers is to always use our superpowers for good in all ways. Always use your superpower for good in all ways. So the bonus tracks is this, right? That's the end of Nehemiah. I'm gonna just give you two things real quick. Inspire, not impress. I got an award. I was fortunate to get a Father of the Year award. I hold it over my kid's head all the time. Remember, I am a Father of the Year, all right, from the American Diabetes Association. And when I was there, all these thoughts and emotions were running through my mind, and it's a big gala room, and my kids were sitting right here. And it came over to me to say, if there's one thing that you guys remember from your dad on this particular night, is to live a life with the focus of inspiring, not impressing. And maybe it was because my kids were younger and social media was just just all over the place and everybody's trying to impress, but I really didn't see anybody that was trying to inspire. And we created our own internal clothing line that I think my daughter might take and run with one day, but Inspire, Not Impress clothing. And it's just it's our internal stuff that we wear. So when we go out and about, and it's our family motto to remind us that we're using our gifts for good in all ways, right? Next thing, life lesson. There's a story about the frogs, superpowers. Okay, I'm gonna just go in here real quick, and it just take 1 minute. A frog can jump about 15 feet in the air. Like, that's a superpower. It got hops, okay? You put a frog in a jar, 12-inch jar, it's gonna jump up and hit his head. It's gonna jump up and hit his head. Eventually, the frog's gonna stop jumping because it's tired of hitting his head. You put another frog in a jar who could jump 15 feet high, it's gonna jump. He's like, he could look at this other frog like, why aren't you jumping? He like, you go see, keep jumping and see what happens. So next thing you know, you got 5 frogs that should be jumping, Avengers, right? You should have these superheroes, these frogs just jumping up out the, but eventually they all just jump here. That's a lot like life. We can go into companies, we can go in to our families, and for some reason there's a lid, this imaginary lid that gets put on the top of our superpowers. And we're not using them for whatever reason because people keep batting them down. Or sometimes it's not even other people. We create in our head that we shouldn't be using our superpowers and we can't do it. So we put in a lid on and we tie it on tight. One of the things through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, my mentor, Scott, talking to my mentors, I came up with the philosophy, you know what? My life is about helping people, no matter where I'm at, whether it's running the company at Safety Center, whether it's serving as an executive coach, whether it's talking to my nieces and nephews, is to live a life of my superpowers, helping people take the lid off their life. Take the lid off their life, take the lid off their careers. And that's why now I live in purpose, so that no matter if I'm running a company, executive coach, if I'm talking here, I know what my mission is. My mission is very, very clear. Help everybody I come in contact with take the lid off their life. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate the insight, the time that you guys have shared with me, because I know time is valuable. And I truly hope there was just one nugget through either the Nehemiah story or my personal journey of 17 jobs that allows for you guys to take the lid off your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darrell. And so we can open up for questions, if anybody has any questions. As always, no questions.
I was that boring? Hey, look, I was trying to leave it all out on the court for you guys, too. You have a question? Yes, Sam?
Yeah, we have a question here, okay? So, I mean, the Nehemiah project is really inspiring. How do you, or why would you think that a model like this can't be spread across the nation and applied in so many different areas and throughout the nation?
Absolutely. So very good question. I just want to make sure I got it clear. So the Nehemiah program, are you talking about just the philosophy in general of social enterprise or the real estate part? Both. So the real estate part is difficult only because of the current regulations around mortgage. So that's the only reason why the real estate part of seller paid down payment assistance is really, really challenging. The laws could change ultimately, right? There's ebbs and flows. What goes around, gets shut down, opens back up, right? Just like skinny jeans. So I think ultimately that will be able to come back at some point or in some form. There are down payment assistance programs out there that are offered by banks and community organizations, but just in a different capacity. So now the banks are funding nonprofits that actually get offered down payment assistance, rather than the nonprofits creating these business models and operating it as a national model. So down payment assistance is still out there, but at a smaller scale. As far as the social enterprise model, it's actually starting to catch on. A lot of nonprofits are now identifying the fact that just because we're a nonprofit doesn't mean that we have to go with our hand out and wait for people to say, yes, you're worthy, or yes, I want to fund you. And there are so many people like coming through the business school here that say, you know what? I really don't want to do, I'm going to go into for-profit, I'm going to learn, how the game is played, but I really know exactly what my vision is. And I'm going to create a nonprofit that can do this, but I'm going to use my for-profit skill set in order to really run it like a business. And I'll say one of the largest social enterprises that people don't really consider a social enterprise is a lot of hospital systems. Right? Sutter Health, nonprofit. Kaiser, nonprofit. Billion-dollar organizations. And now more and more people are starting to catch on to it. Hopefully that answered your question. Absolutely. Yes?
Could you add the inspire, not impress? There was 4 numbers under that, and they represent something?
Let me go back to that. And I believe you were asking about, is that it? So the 03, my daughter was born in 2003 and my son was born in 2005. They were like, Dad, I can't believe we put that in there. I don't know. We need to refresh this logo. Yes.
I know earlier you touched a little bit about how it was kind of your first time being on a college campus and how you kind of met something like, college is an option. Can you talk a little bit more, I guess, just about your education and what that was like for you?
Absolutely. So went to Armiel High School in Fairfield, played basketball there, thought I was going to go straight to big time Division I basketball. Didn't happen that way. Ended up going to West Valley Community College in Saratoga, Los Gatos, San Jose area. West Valley was the #1 basketball community college in the country, right? It was like a factory. So it was almost like the best thing that could have happened for me, because one of the things that I learned about education is, and it comes from my mentors telling me, and I took this as I went through school, it's not about learning, just learning, it's about learning to apply. You can learn all you want, but if you don't figure out how to apply it, it's not worth it. You don't get the return on investment. And it's not only about learning and applying it, and you apply it because you want to stay there. And it's not about using this degree to get to this particular position, but it's about to get to this position and crush it in that position, right? Or entrepreneurship. So as I went through West Valley Community College, and I was playing basketball, #1 school in the country, got a lot of offers to go to school. My biological dad raised me and my brother when my parents got divorced when I was 12. Though my mother was in my life, right? It was me, my dad, and my brother every day. My dad was at every single game, like every game. Worked for the federal government. He would actually take the government truck, sneak off base to go to my games, whatever. I wanted to play close to home so my dad could come to every game. And even through college, he went to every game, whether in Hawaii or Syracuse or Cincinnati or Alaska, like he had every game. But I wanted to make it easy on my dad so that he only had a hop, skip to the Bay Area to go to every game. So after I go to Santa Clara, I'm like, you know what, I'm tired of school, I'm gonna go play basketball. No more school for me.
I go into my career, and Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, when I was like, I need a little bit more. They're like, I know I got something in me. And he's like, and my mentor is a guy named Mel Woods, who's 83 now. He was the head lobbyist for Eli Lilly. And because of the fact that he's been there, done that, you know, had the house that I wanted and the life that I wanted, retirement, the vacation homes and everything. And he was taller than me. He was more dark skinned than me. He had played basketball and I'm like, this is me, like I could do this. He said, D, you gotta go sharpen the axe. I was like, what do you mean by sharpen the axe? He's like, you gotta get more education. He said, what's gonna happen is you're gonna get to so far, but if you're going on the corporate side, not the entrepreneurship side, they gonna say, check mark, check mark, check mark. Ah, he don't got the MBA. He ain't got the master's. I'm like, he's like, do you really want that to happen? I'm like, absolutely not. So I ended up going to Drexel University to get my MBA, general MBA. Got really fortunate too, because they had opened up a satellite campus in Sacramento. And I'm like, okay, just right down the street, private school, like, you know, same type of vibe, East Coast. I'll be able to go a couple times a year. Then the kids got busy, and they were like, oh, we eliminated the need for you guys to come. We're gonna just send all the instructors to you all the time. I'm like, what? I gotta travel and I get my MBA? So I got my MBA from Drexel University, but it didn't stop, right? While no formal education as far as a PhD, went through the American Leadership Forum, which is for senior executives, went through the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy, because I wanted to get that hardcore, like I was an entrepreneur, but I needed those relationships of other hardcore entrepreneurs that have been there, done that, which was a phenomenal experience. And it gave me this model that I am able to overlay now every single business that we start up. So whether it's a business line, a business, as the companies that I run, whether it's me serving as an executive coach for a company that wants to start a new business line, like I have this model now that I can overlay on every single thing so we can move through. And I didn't learn that in MBA, right? I didn't learn that in undergrad. I learned that in this program, this isolated little program that said I just need to continue to sharpen the axe. And my education now, while my wife's crazy that thinks, I'm like, you know what, one day I am gonna go get my PhD. You know, my daughter is a freshman in college. My son is a junior in high school. I got 2 tuitions, like 2 chains. I got 2 phones, like I got 2 tuitions. They are, but once we go through that, I'll get my PhD. But until then, I continue to sharpen the axe. So I listen to podcasts. I listen to corporate, you know, Inside America's boardrooms, so I can be the best corporate board member that there is, right? That's what I'm evolving to. I listen to motivational stuff to get my mind right and my perspective. I'm a man of deep faith, right? So I listen to a lot of sermons. I listen to case studies. There was the London School of Business. I was driving, actually, I was telling somebody I went to the Stockton Kings game this past weekend. My wife and son fell asleep in the car. I turned on a podcast from the London School of Business about complexity in business. It was one of the most fascinating things I ever came across, right? Harvard Business Reviews. So while my formal education was, you know, Santa Clara, high school, West Valley Community College, Santa Clara, and Drexel, my education continues every single day. So hopefully that answered your question. No. Hey!
What kind of advice or tips do you have on networking?
Very good question. Very, very good question. And what's your name?
Shelby.
Shelby, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming and hanging in there. So much advice for networking, but this is what I would say. People want to meet you. Number one, get over the fear of going out to meet people. A lot of people have that hold them back, right? People actually really love to talk about themselves. So one of the tips I would say is, as you start to meet people, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you find? that is an absolutely awesome shirt, blouse, what you call it, right? I love the colors. Where'd you find that? Right? People love to talk about themselves. So always open it up with asking about the other person. Just be genuinely interested. Right? And one of the things I heard from that part of John Maxwell about 4 or 5 years ago was just the art of asking really good questions and being genuinely interested in people and what makes them tick. And all of a sudden, it doesn't become, I'm networking. I'm actually just going to go find out about this lady because I love her hat and she looks super smart. So let me just go find out about it. How did you become super smart? And all of a sudden it becomes an interview. You're almost like a journalist then, right? Or a talk show host, just getting to learn about people. And you never know where the relationship goes. One of the things that I heard, and one of my mentors, a gentleman, Mel Wood, said is relationships is the greatest currency. And it's proven time and time again in my life to be true. So now I go out and I like to learn about people, right? Everybody's story inspires me in some different way and I learn, but the relationships being the greatest currency is from my children, right? For those that I meet, right? Like my man, what was his name back there? You said it, I'm gonna get it before it's time, right? Right, just case in point, I talking to Arcelio and he's like, hey, I said, what do you want to do? He's like, man, I'm doing marketing. I ultimately want to own my own business. He's like, but first, I need to go work for a company to learn the game. And I'm like, he didn't say it just like that. That's my words, right? And I'm like, okay. We're talking a little bit. I'm like, you know what? I actually know the president and CEO of one of the larger marketing ad agencies in Sacramento. I gave him my information, said, whenever you want to talk to him, I'll reach out, see who you need to talk to. Right? So it's not that it's currency for me, it's the currency for other people to help take the lid off. So that's one of the things that I would say. Ask people about themselves. Don't be afraid, right? Everybody loves to talk about themselves. And if they don't want to talk to you, they weren't supposed to be for you. Hopefully that helps. Yep. Make it a game too. So one of the things I'll say this. It's always fun when you network with somebody else, right? So you go somewhere with your friends, you three, you guys go to somewhere and you be like, hey, we're gonna go network tonight. What? No, we're gonna go have a networking party. Like this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a contest and whoever gets the most business cards, we owe you coffee or a pizza or whatever. Like make it a game. And then the other part of the networking, which is the most important, is not networking for networking sake, it's the follow-up. The follow-up is absolutely essential, right? And it doesn't have to be anything grand. It was so great to meet you. Thank you for giving me some insight about whatever it might be. I look forward to meeting you again in the near future. If it's somebody that you want to build a relationship with, it would be absolutely awesome if I could buy you a cup of coffee. And remember, this cup of coffee is on me. I have these questions. I'll be super prepared because your journey was so interesting. I felt like I needed more. We didn't have enough time together. So the follow-up is everything.
Well, thank you so much, Darrell.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you on the tech, keeping me all organized here.